Hi, are you about to embark on an upholstery project and you want to know how to strip or tear off your upholstery piece quickly, efficiently, and properly? Stick around. Hi there, it's Mimsy here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to tear off the upholstery on this settee. You would think that it would be super easy, that you just grab a pair of scissors and start cutting and ripping away the fabric. But believe it or not, there's actually a method to the madness. A few tools that you'll need is you need a good pair of scissors and a decent pair of pliers. The more rounded shape makes it good because you can utilize that round edge for leverage. Then you're going to need a flathead screwdriver. I just use a flathead screwdriver because that's what I've got. I don't even have real upholstery tools. You would generally use a staple puller, which is kind of a claw foot looking tool, and it has a little bit of a curve to it here, and then kind of a claw front, and that way you can get under a staple and pull it up. But I don't have one of those, and it's not completely necessary, but if you can get one, it makes things a little bit easier. So the beauty of having these upholstery sawhorses is that you can move your furniture yourself. Let me show you what those look like. This is an upholstery sawhorse, which is basically just a sawhorse, but it has this top piece on it that your piece sits into and fits into so it doesn't fall off of there. So you could just use a regular wood sawhorse and then attach a 1x or a 2x to either side so that your legs don't fall off. Okay, so now I can just take off this dust cover, and I almost never save the dust cover because this cambric, which is what's used for closing up the bottom, is super duper cheap. The next step is to pull off all the welt cord. So first I'm going to start with this welt cord that goes all the way around the bottom edge. You can just cut into the welt cord in between a couple staples. There's a few ways that you can go about trying to pull the welt off. This has actually quite a bit of staples in the welt for some reason. There's 3 staples on top of each other there, 2 there. This is a little bit harder. So you can put your staple puller or screwdriver in behind the piece of welt cord and just kind of pry it away, and that will pull up some of the staples, or grab a hold of it so that your welt is in that little curved area of your pliers and give it a good yank. And that's a good way to do it because it will pull out some of the staples, and then you can just grab a hold of them with your pliers and roll them out. And the other way that you can do it is you can use your claw-like staple puller and just actually pull the staples out in order to get your welt off. But doing it that way will take you way longer. So I've got a little bit of welt here, so what I like to do is I will grab a hold of the welt real good and then just spin my pliers and roll it up on itself, and that will generally pull the welt out pretty easily. See that? So that works pretty good. Since I've got this settee set on its back, I'm going to go ahead and take the welt off the bottom all the way around, and then I'm going to go ahead and take out some of these staples, or get this fabric up off of here. That way I can set the settee back up on its legs and do the rest of the piece. Looks like there's 2 layers of fabric here. Great. The good thing about upholstery is that there's not a lot of sewing involved, particularly on a project like this. The only sewing is going to be the cushion, so you could potentially do upholstery with very little sewing skills. So I'm almost finished getting this bottom loose from the bottom of the settee, so I can flip it over and start working on the rest. But I just wanted to touch base quickly on the tools that you need. You really only need to have a flathead screwdriver and a pair of pliers. However, if you have the upholstery tools, it does make it a little bit easier. The 2 other things that I would recommend, other than a screwdriver and the pliers and scissors, is an upholstery regulator or an awl, which is similar. An upholstery regulator is generally a 2-sided tool. The one side looks like an ice pick, and then the other side is flat, and it's used for tucking and different things. But I like to use an awl a lot of times, or I used to, and I can't find it. I don't know where it is, but an awl is generally for leather working, I think. And it has an ice pick type tool on this end, but a wood thing. It's just basically like a screwdriver, but it's wood on this end with an ice pick on this end. And that makes getting underneath staples really easy, because you can just poke it underneath the staple and give it a couple taps, and you can pull that staple out enough to grab it with your pliers. So that's the one other tool that I would recommend as an awl. But really not completely necessary. You can strip a whole piece of furniture with just these two tools. And I will put links to all the tools in the description box below. So if you want to order any of the tools that I've got, I'll put the links for those below. Okay, so the welt is off around the whole piece, and the next thing that you want to open up is the back piece of the sofa, settee, chair, whatever piece you're working on. The back is always the very last part of the piece to get closed up, so this needs to be the first part to take off after the dust cover and all the welt. So the way that this is closed up could be one of three ways, essentially. It can be sewn shut. You can use the alligator clip type metal trim there. I forget the name of it. I'll put it on the screen when I remember it. And then the last type is this pokey type, which is what this is. And I can't remember the name of it either, but I will put it on the screen. Let me show you. I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. There's a little bit of a bump here, so I know I can get my screwdriver in behind it. I'm just going to tap it with my pliers and open it up. And it's super easy to open it up. But you want to be sort of ginger about it, because you want to keep this. And actually, it looks like I didn't get this one little piece of welt off down here. It's kind of holding the whole thing together. Keep pulling this open. Now you just have to be super careful, because these are actually long, pokey metal things, but you want to keep them in good shape because we're going to reuse them when we close this back up. Along with using the tack strip, we're also going to use all of our fabric pieces that we tear off as patterns to cut our new pieces of fabric. So that's why we have to be careful when tearing off. So that's what's in there. And we'll set that aside, straighten it out. And we've got another pokey thing over here, so I'll take this one off the same way I did that one. I'm going to fold this up after writing with chalk, outside back. Okay, now the back is off, and I will take off the sides. This fabric right here, we can go ahead and undo this. This is the inside back. So the fabric comes down the inside back, it's tucked through and stapled right here, or sometimes here. Okay, now feel that and take out any protruding or loose staples. Okay, so this is day 2 of tear off or stripping this piece, and I did finally locate my awl. This is one of them. It's not my good one, but this one works, and it's very, very helpful to be able to use this little point in order to get underneath the staples that are tight in the wood. You just tap it and it lifts those staples up enough that you can pull them out. And it's particularly helpful for the tiny little narrow staples that a lot of upholsterers use to hold on the double welt, because they're so narrow. This little tip works really good to get those out. So this is another tool that's pretty essential, and I'll link to this as well. So I've got my back off and both of the sides off, and the next thing would be to go ahead and take off these staples here, which are holding the bottom of the inside back and the seat back. However, they're on pretty tight over here. Let me bring in. First of all, there's a lot of them, and they're kind of in between here, so they're a little bit hard to get to. So what I'm gonna do is leave these, and then I'm gonna take off the fabric on the front and push it out through the back here, and then I can just yank it off. Okay, so now we have to take off the seat or the deck and then the inside back, and this piece is put through and fastened here, so I'm gonna have to take off the dacron on the side, which I should be able to just lift it up and leave it attached there because I'll be able to reuse this. Okay, and now I'll take this off. This is the fabric for the inside deck or seat. So we'll take this off of here, and there's probably a few staples along the bottom as well. Actually, no. What that looks like is that's probably the inside arm. We'll take it off and see. And then the inside deck is stapled to the bottom here. And then this piece here is the inside back and the inside arm, both. There's 2 layers there. So they brought the inside back around and stapled it here, which sometimes it's stapled here, sometimes it's brought around here is what I usually do. Loosen up all this on both sides, and then we should be able to get the inside back and the inside deck off. One tip that you want to be careful of when you're tearing off is to be mindful of all the exposed wood and not use your exposed wood for leverage. If you have to leverage on your exposed decorative wood, use a piece of Dacron, double it up, and put that over the top of your wood if you have to do that. See how I'm leveraging it against this? This is going to be covered, so it doesn't matter. Also, if you're somebody who's very strong and you have a spot like this where you've got a real lot of staples and they're really holding this, you have to be careful to not pull so hard that you break your frame. So in that case, ouch, in that case you would need to utilize your staple puller or your awl and pull those staples out so you don't break the frame. This is where things can get icky because a lot of stuff gets dropped in your seat cushion and ends up down here. It can get really icky. I'm just pushing that fabric up through there. Now I can pull out all these halfway staples. And now I can move on to this layer, which is actually the deck right here. That piece that I took off was the inside arm coming around and then up. So it comes down this side, pulls out, and staples up there. So this piece was given to me by a friend. I'm redoing it for my nephew, who is Santa. I'll show you a picture. And he needs to have a wider seat so that kids can sit next to him and not all be sitting on his lap. So some areas can be a real struggle, so you really have to have patience for this and just know that it's going to take you a couple hours, 2-3 hours to strip a piece this size, maybe longer. So just put on your favorite podcast or your favorite music and go to work and just have patience with it. Okay, so I've got the inside arm stripped away. This is all stripped up. Now I need to pull this away, the deck away from here. And the deck is sewn on with button thread, just in some big stitches all the way across to hold it down here. So I've just got to cut that. So this is where your curved needle comes in. And then I'm gonna just stuff that out the back so that I can pull it through the back side and yank it down. Okay, so now I've got to strip off the inside on the other side and then across the back, and then I'll turn it around. Actually, I might lay it down on its back so I can reach that easier. Alright, so once you get all the fabric off, then just gently feel for anything that's sticking up or loose, and be very careful when you do that because there could be broken staples and you don't want to cut yourself. Once everything is out, all the loose staples are out, and you've taken out enough staples that there's space to put in new staples, it's time to start cutting your fabric for putting it back together. So you are going to be moving on to the next step. Then go ahead and click on the next video for putting this piece back together, cutting the fabric and attaching it to your piece. Check that video out right here.